because clothing and accessories were in such short supply, there was a special emphasis put on hair and makeup during that time. Even though the country was going through the war, women were still encouraged to look their best at all times, which really says a lot about how women were still seen, even though they were such a big help in the war effort. And also, a general summary of this decade in makeup is that it was a balance between the dark tones of the 20s and the lighter, more powdery look of the 30s. Manufacturing of cosmetics during this time was cut short because of staple ingredients such as castor oil, glycerin, talcum powder, and alcohol were used in packaging products and for war materials, so they weren't manufactured as much. A general word to describe this decade in makeup would be glamour. As far as look goes, there are deep, luscious colors, a lot of reds, such as light reds, fuchsias, pink reds, orange reds, etc. For eye makeup, there wasn't a lot of eyeshadow anymore. Mascara was the big accessory for the eyes, and they would use a thin line of liquid brown eyeliner on the top. Rouge or blush was red with pink undertones, and how women would apply it is they would put, it started on the top of their cheekbones and brush up towards the temples for a triangle effect. And for their eyebrows, they were arched and plucked, and they would fill them in with eyeshadow instead of the eye pencil for a lighter look, and they would spread Vaseline over the top of them because they thought it gave them a Hollywood sheen. Here's some pictures that I thought described pretty well. You can see here, especially the arched, filled-in eyebrow, her deep lips. Even though this picture is kind of creepy, and the rouge, the triangle effect was shown very good there. As far as nails goes, any color goes, whatever matched the outfit. I kind of tried to match the outfit. They painted them with a half moon unpainted on the bottom because they thought it elongated their nails. And also women were encouraged to buff their nails instead of to use a varnish because varnishes were scarce and impractical in a time when so many women were working. Hair was, the short hair was out, long, voluminous, loose curls were in, which was really influenced by Hollywood at that time. Side parts were more common, and women swept their hair up for special occasions. Also, women were encouraged to brush their hair instead of using products like Brilliantine to make it shiny, because obviously products like that weren't really manufactured as much as they used to be. Here's some examples of the hair. This is the page boy hairstyle, which Sarah's kind of sporting today, where it's like straight and then just curled under on all sides. This is Veronica Lake. She was the main Hollywood actress that encouraged women to leave their hair long and soft and curling. And this hairstyle has many different names known as the victory roll, the suicide roll, the reverse curl. There's different ways women would wear it. They would wear it like two coming in like that. Someone wore it like, I tried to do the one-ish kind of. And then someone would...
It looks awesome.
Thank you. Some women took it in from the front and curled it back and underneath, so it was like a roller in their hair sideways, kind of.
Okay. Women's fashion of the 1940s, the ideal silhouette included a small waist and a suppressed hemline. This embraced their true body shape, and skirts were often pleated and dresses were about to the knees. Bathing suits, it was kind of a conversion to the two-piece bathing suit during this time, although most people weren't as comfortable with it until the late 50s and early 60s. And dresses also usually had emphasis on broad shoulders, so they used padding a lot more than they used to.
Even throughout the war, styles continued to evolve, and in Europe, many of the designers fled Europe or went into hiding, especially if they were Jewish designers. In one case, instead of following orders from the Nazis to make a utilitarian collection, Madame Gris, she created a defiant collection in all of the French flag colors, and they temporarily shut down her business, and she fled Paris until it was liberated. And in the working women, the style was very masculine because they had to wear pants and overalls. They wouldn't be wearing dresses and skirts. But they still weren't the best for social occasions, so there was a rule of thumb, if in doubt, wear a skirt. And in Britain, when they would be calling the sirens for people to go to the shelters for the air raids, they would throw on siren suits. and they were like jumpsuits up in the corner, and they would keep them warm, and it was good for children because they just had to step into them and zip it up. There weren't any like complicated buckles and stuff. And utility clothing was popular in Britain. It was like a civilian uniform, and it was marked with a CC-41 for civilian clothing and for 1941. And it was produced to aid the economy and help the war effort in Britain. And at first people didn't like it, but then they warmed up to it because it was really durable and it varied a little bit in style. And then in 1942, the making of civilian clothing was a restriction order, and it forbade the wasteful cutting of clothing, and it gave restrictions on clothing that seamstresses and dressmakers would have to follow. Like, for example, a dress couldn't have more than 2 pockets, 5 buttons, 6 seams, 160 inches of stitching, and no extra decoration was allowed. Women's hats, for the most part, were small in size to conserve material, and to add some interest, they would use a lot of decoration like netting, and ribbons and flowers. But styles were changing throughout the 40s, so it's hard to find information on. But by the end of the 40s, they were wearing wide brim felt hats, and they took inspiration from the working women, so women would wear turbans and snoods to keep their hair out of the way while they were working. And in this picture, you can see the turban and the hair bandana to keep their head of face. And they also took inspiration from military caps, kind of like this one and that one. And a popular hat was the bumper hat, which is in the corner over there. And by the end of the war, a designer, Hattie Carnegie, she kept the beret in style, but she designed it with a more feminine style with velvet and beading and stuff, so it wouldn't be as masculine as the hats they were designing during the war.
The women's shoes in the 1940s were mostly generalized into 3 groups: the Oxfords, pumps, and sandals. The Oxfords were for everyday life. They were more common in factories and where women were working all day on the feet. Pumps were more for dress occasions because they were uncomfortable and they were more for shorter periods of time. And sandals would appear light or heavy and be worn for sporting events or just evening in town. Some other facts are to conserve leather for the war. They would wear chunky wooden heels instead of leather ones. And open-toed shoes were considered dangerous and impractical, especially because in men's factories. The fluoroscope was seen in all the shoe stores in the 1940s. It consisted of a vertical wooden cabinet with a hole at the top, and you place your feet in here and look through these little telescope things right here. And it's basically to show you the bones of your feet. And then shoe breaking services were popularly offered because of the wooden part of the heel that would make it really uncomfortable to walk in.
For fashion after the war, in 1947, Christian Dior created the new look, and he thought women needed a change from the masculine style they had been wearing during the war, and it reestablished Paris as the center of the fashion world. And the popular look of his collection was the bar suit, which is pictured, and it's a tightly fitted jacket with a full pleated wool skirt, and a tiny waist was achieved with a small corset, and they would pad the hips to emphasize the small waist. But it was a controversial look because some women thought it was being anti-feminist, and it was impractical to have such a heavy wool skirt. And one occasion, one woman was getting off the bus and her skirt got caught in the door. She had to run along with the bus until it was freed, so women thought that was pretty impractical to be wearing around their house. But some women did like it because they wanted to be getting back to the feminine aspect of clothing. And so, and Carmel Snow was the editor of Harper's Bazaar, and she came up with the term of new look.
During the war, everything from sugar to gasoline was rationed. This also meant that a lot of things for clothing were restricted too. The government introduced a policy of make, do, and mend, where they didn't make any more new clothes, really. You had to make do with what you had and mend it. During the war, silk and nylon and other materials were needed for parachutes and jackets and all the other military things.